Jubei. So I'm gonna do just a quick little spoiler-free video on X-Men Apocalypse, man. That it's that this I didn't rush out to see this movie, and this feels like a movie that was let down by its marketing. There was no hype for it whatsoever. The trailers that did come out, the one spoiler I'm gonna say is they give away far too much of the plot. There are things that are in the trailer that have no business being there. Okay, they're just everything's kind of all over the show. But I went to see it last night, and these are my thoughts. These are my spoiler-free thoughts. I will do my spoiler thoughts later on. I didn't do spoiler thoughts for Civil War. That's on me. Okay, but I'm doing spoiler thoughts for this separately. Now, this movie, the plot of it is it takes place in 1983, 10 years after the events of Days of Future Past, the 70s events, and it's mutants are. Well, Mystique makes a point of they're not hated and feared. Well, they're still hated and feared. They're just people are more polite about it. They're still minority, but they're somewhat more accepted. They're not being hunted or put into scientific experiments for the most part. And Professor Xavier's school for gifted children, gifted youngsters, is in full swing. It's a school. It's fully operational. He's hoping to expand it to include, like, humans and mutants together under one roof. It's gonna be awesome. It's open. It's dream. It's there and it's real. In the middle of all this, though, in the middle of this mutant boom, this cult has unearthed a tomb which reawakens Apocalypse. He's never directly referred to as Apocalypse. They use the word Apocalypse twice. He's referred to at the start as En Sabah Nur, but they just kind of leave it at that. But that's by the by. Now, first thing I'm going to say, Oscar Isaac's performance as Apocalypse is fine. It's just fine. You never feel like you're watching Apocalypse. You do feel like you're watching this sort of blue, pale. It's weird. He does have this voice. They do some tricks with his voice and his appearance, which make him feel more ancient, more powerful, like a force of nature, and that's cool. But generally speaking, he speaks in this quite faint little tilt, this soft whisper, "My child," which I guess I like that because he comes across as like a cult leader. So I like that approach to it. There are certain. This is it doesn't feel like Apocalypse. We know who Apocalypse is from the comics and cartoons. He's massive. He's a brute. He's this mastermind. He's Machiavellian. He's Darwinism in person. And this is less that. But he wants to save the world for the mutants, for himself. He's like, oh my god, he was worshipped as a god. He's the first mutant. And he takes a look around the world and he sees, oh my god, I can do better than this. And it's he then sets out to recruit the four horsemen of the apocalypse. He sees them and he recruits them, and that's Psylocke's in it. I was going to call her Captain Phasma of this, but she's not. She does a bit more than Captain Phasma does. In fact, she does much more. She does flips and she talks and she's got that sword. She has a really cool fight scene with Beast. You saw that in the trailers. It's cool. One or two, we see some more mutants. It's really hard for me to talk about this and not spoil things. So, man, it's. Do you know what? No. The spoiler section of this video ends imminently. Okay, this is what I'm going to say. The movie on a whole is alright. It's worth watching. It's not a bad film. It's certainly a likable film. It's going to pass time. You're going to watch it and you're going to enjoy it. Okay, there are definitely parts of this that you're going to enjoy. There are parts of this that are really, really going to just grip you. And there are parts of this that aren't going to sort of win you over. We've, as a nerd, I came out of Civil War wanting to be wowed by every comic book movie. And this one didn't wow me, but it didn't make me roll my eyes and groan audibly like another comic book movie I've seen this year. But no, spoiler-free version of this is, it's fine. It's a good movie. It's not the best X-Men movie. It's not, to me, it's not better than Days of Future Past. But it's good, okay? It's passable, it's entertaining. Cast are still great. It's good. All right. Now here comes the spoiler section. So if you haven't watched this movie, go home, go away, get. All right. If you have, let's talk about it. So the twist with Apocalypse is that he's not the original Apocalypse. Technically, his consciousness and his powers get transferred from individual to individual whenever his body ages. And that's why he has amassed all these powers. He only transfers to other mutants that come after him. So that's pretty cool. He also has the power to heighten his followers' powers. So he makes Magneto stronger so he can control the magnetic poles of the Earth and the metal in the Earth. He makes Angel stronger. He gives him his Archangel wings. Psylocke becomes stronger somehow because, I don't know, she's already seemed pretty strong. And we assume Storm was a mutant because we see her using the wind, but then he gives her the power to ride the lightning and stuff, man. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Let's go with that. So there's that. James McAvoy's back as Xavier. He's got a bit of a mullet. Havoc's back with a mullet. He blows up the X-Mansion. That was pretty fucking weird. This is pretty fucking weird, right? Okay, so there's there are two moments in this that should have been more harrowing, but they really shit the bed on that. One, we're watching as Apocalypse takes control of other people's minds, soldiers, the Navy, whatever, and every nuclear warhead in the world suddenly aims skyward, launches, goes into space, and it's in space. But we keep cutting to images of people watching these go up, and it's like, and we see an elderly couple just hugging each other, just in fear and worry and concern. And it's Stan Lee and his wife. Well, I assume it's his wife. It's Stan Lee. And that's, that's in the middle of all this, we're like, hey, look, it's Stan Lee, We shouldn't be thinking that. We should be thinking, oh my God, we shouldn't be distracted by Stan Lee. They even got the Stan Lee cameo wrong. How could you get the Stan Lee cameo wrong? It's fine. It's a fine movie. There are some bits of it that are good. I still enjoy Nicholas Hoult as Beast. Mystique is not going by Mystique. She's going by Raven now. She spends most of her time as Jennifer Lawrence because she's not mutant and proud anymore. It's very Hunger Games-esque. People accuse her of phoning it in. She doesn't. But it's just, it doesn't phone it in. It's just she's so used to and so... She knows this shit like the back of her hand. Give us a rallying speech. Okay, you're not students anymore. You're X-Men. Da-da-da-da-da. And it just goes on like that for a lot of the movie. I mean, there are some tender moments, There's a moment on the jet where she's like, yeah, the first time we were in Cuba, your brother was there. And I was like, that's nice, The new cast, the young X-Men, Jean and Scott, it's good to see their sort of blossoming romance with your man from Kingsman. And freaking Sansa Stark, those two work. I like their chemistry, They're good. I like them, There's some funny beats where they come out of the cinema and they've just seen Return of the Jedi. I was like, oh, well, we can all agree the third movie's the worst, right? X-Men 3, But this is the third movie in this new series, and this is kind of the worst as well. But it's not a bad movie. It's not the best movie, but it's not a bad movie. It's a bad movie compared to other ones, but generally it's a good movie. So read into this what you will. The Wolverine cameo. The Wolverine cameo in this is great. It's not as good as his First Class cameo, which was strictly a cameo. In this instance, he bursts out of his cage, goes berserk, he's Weapon X Wolverine with the helmet and the shorts and the wires and all that, and then he's gone. He doesn't even speak. He just runs out in the wild, just prances off, and there he is. I like that. That's good use of Wolverine. Just have him be there. Just the story doesn't revolve around him. He shows up, wrecks shit, leaves. I like it. Perfect. Now Bryan Singer's got it. Speaking of him, I want somebody else to have a go on with this franchise. I mean, he does a good job. And speaking of good jobs, Fassbender. Fassbender as Magneto gets one of his best moments in this series. Magneto's living a civilian life in Poland. And then he gets unearthed. And in the comics, what happens is after Auschwitz, Magneto, as a young adult, starts a family. The villagers learn that he's a mutant and burn his family down in their house. And I think, oh my god, they're not going to do that, are they? Jesus. As soon as I saw them with the wooden bows and the staffs in the wood with his mutant daughter, he has some control over animals, I was like, oh, okay, so this isn't a mutant thing, they're going after him because he's Magneto and he's a war criminal. I'm like, okay, that's dark, man. It's fucking, but I like it, I can take that. And then, like, after he's told his daughter, I'm not going to leave you, they go to take him away and arrest him. The daughter freaks out, summons down birds and owls and hawks and falcons, and just they start attacking the guys. One guy loses his concentration, lets go of the arrow, and it's just, I could hear the gasps in the cinema. You see this arrow going through, and it pierces through his daughter's back, through into his wife's chest, and through his wife's chest, and it's devastating. It's devastating, but it's also followed up with a really odd moment where he just yells up into the sky, like, "Is this what you want from me?" And I'm like, you don't need this. Why are you laying it on like that? Also, the explosion at the mansion, it's it's cool, and it leads into this really odd, funny, upbeat moment with Quicksilver, backed by the Eurythmics, where the mansion explodes and it's a really intense moment, but suddenly it's funny because we get to watch how this really, really fast dude rescues everybody at the speed of light and then gets captured. And also Jubilee's in this very minimally, okay? If you're like, hey, we finally get Jubilee. Yeah, she doesn't use her powers. I think she just gets knocked down. She shows up with Scott, Jean, and Nightcrawler. And he's good, they use him better in this. And then she's just not there for the last act. It's just, but whatever. It's the fact that we have an X-Men movie set in the 80s and we still don't have the flashy costumes until the very end is stupid. It's a waste. What are you doing? Somebody else needs this franchise. But tip of the hat for Bryan Singer for doing a good job on most of them. But yeah, those are my thoughts, my spoiler and non-spoiler thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. If you like this vid, please click like, subscribe, view, share, and all the usual jazz. And I'll see you later on YouTube. All the best.